you're unhappy with your salary, or you're a graduate and you wonder which industry will pay extraordinary salaries? Watch this video, it's for you. One of the industries we will be looking at is management consulting. And I'm Gabriel Goldbrain, who developed the Goldbrain SUCCESS Training, which helps graduates break into management consulting and earn 100,000 US dollars straight out of college. To find out more, go to my website www.gabrielgoldbrain.com. But now let's get started. So, where can you find well-paid jobs? There are basically two important dimensions we have to look at. The first dimension is the supply and demand balance on the HR, from an HR perspective. So what does that mean? For instance, an imbalance could be created by education, which means there is only a limited number of persons having a certain education and the demand is high, so the salary has to go up. This is, for instance, the case for doctors, it's the case for computer scientists, and it's the case for lawyers. And if you look into specialized lawyers and specialized doctors and specialized computer scientists, like for instance AI computer scientists, AI specialists, if you look at lawyers for banking law, so these are even higher paid. So qualification is one thing where you can find high salaries. Another thing for supply-demand imbalances are by experience. So for instance, a CEO, he will be picked by experience. The same applies to top salesmen. There is the experience what makes them rare, because they have been long in the market, have been long with the company, and that's why they qualify for these high-paid jobs. Another differentiating factor from a supply and demand balance is intelligence. So for instance, a professor. Not everyone can become a professor, because a professor needs to be smart, he needs to find out things, discover things no one has discovered before. And another factor could be risk-taking. For instance, being a coal miner, taking a high personal risk of injury will give you a better salary than maybe less risky jobs. If you have a lot of responsibility, like a manager or a pilot, you will get a higher salary. Sometimes supply-demand imbalances are created by character traits. Not everyone wants to become a tax advisor. Not everyone can really sit there and analyze the numbers and is being patient, doing things which a lot of people find boring and exhausting. So that's also a differentiator. Other differentiators are by looks. Not everyone can become a model. Or differentiation may come by skills, like an artist who has a certain way to paint things which is unique. And things like a singer, when you write songs which touch people in their heart, not everyone can do that. And that's where you get the high-paid salaries. These are the dimensions in which you can see, okay, if you have something special, that results in a high-paying salary. So think about what is special about you, what you can offer, and where you can find it to find a job which is paying you better than average. We pretty much covered the first dimension, the supply-demand dimension, and now let's talk about the second dimension, which is the underlying industry, which determines if you can expect a high salary. If you work in an industry where you handle big tickets, for instance, you're a salesman for airplanes, you're a salesman for real estate, you will earn more money than if you handle small value items. For instance, if you're selling spare parts for bicycles in a small town, you will not be able to make a lot of money. Whereas if you sell very expensive ticket items, there will be enough margin to have better salaries for the salesman. It's just because the whole business is better and therefore the business can afford to pay more. This is important to understand. The same applies for industries where you have large volumes. For instance, if you work for a multinational food producer, you will be able to get higher salaries than if you work at a local bakery, because there is just such a big difference in volumes being sold and in an overall profit which can be used to pay salaries. Whereas the bakery is very limited in what they can pay. A multinational company, if they have decent margins, they can pay pretty decent salaries. But enough said for today on the theory. Today we will look into industries which require smart and hard-working people, which have all of these underlying economics which allow pretty good or exceptional salaries. So where can we now find information about jobs for the hardworking, smart people, which means persons with an exceptional CV, with exceptional grades? It's easy. We look at leading business schools. In which industries will graduates of these MBA business schools go and work? And most importantly, what salaries do the graduates get in these industries on average or in the mean when they have like 2 to 5 years of working experience and a 1 or 2 year MBA degree? This information can be found in the business schools' employment reports. These reports are generated from surveys of their graduates, among their graduates, and published every year. And you get all the details you want, because these reports are an excellent marketing tool for these business schools, because they demonstrate how well paid jobs their graduates get. I used Columbia Business School's employment report for the year 2022, as it can be considered as representative for the other business schools, which are not much different when it comes to the industries to which their graduates apply and work for. The skyscraper chart, which you see on this slide, is sorted by the percentage of graduates being absorbed by an industry. So, the leftmost industry is consulting, where most of the graduates are being absorbed, which means they are working in this industry. So 33% of graduates, so about 1/3 of Columbia Business School, they work in the consulting industry. And they earn a pretty decent salary. So the mean salary a graduate gets from a consulting firm, the base salary, the annual base salary, is $175,000, which means half of the graduates earns less and the other half of the graduates earns more, which go to that industry. 15% of graduates works in investment banking. That means in banks. They're doing mergers and acquisitions, they're issuing bonds and related things. About 10% of graduates work in IT or e-commerce companies. The base salary is a little bit lower, with a mean of $145,000. And these are companies like the Googles, Facebook, Apple, big tech, and related companies, Salesforce.com, and all of these big companies, where they take usually manager or director roles. Also about 10% go into wealth management. This means publicly traded funds, family offices which manage the wealth of rich families, or they just go in banks doing the same thing. Only about 5% make it into private equity. The base salaries are with 162,000 in the mean, which are a little bit lower than consulting, but this kind of business can be even more rewarding, as they have bonuses which are tied to their success, to their performance. What is private equity about? This is about buying and selling established businesses. And Therefore, usually you have to be in such a firm for a decade or even more, but then it can be really, really profitable and paying extraordinary returns to these candidates. So about 3 to 4% will end up in real estate, which are kind of bigger funds making investments in real estate. Salaries are pretty decent, still the mean salaries with 150,000 US. So also very interesting industry. But nowadays, with the raised interest rate, it can be difficult in this market environment. But maybe it's the right time to start, because then you will get incentives like in private equities 5 to 10 years down the road for the investments you were participating in. Another 3 to 4% go into venture capital, which is investing into startups. Like when Google was young, when Facebook was young, those companies are backed by venture capital investors. It's a very risky asset class, but if you manage to get into one of the leading funds, it can pay off big time. But it's hard to get in, and you need a long time until you get your returns, because these companies first need to grow, and it can take a decade until the company is mature and you get returns for the investments you were able to participate in. Then we have the other category, which is quite a mixed bag of industries. So you will find a variety of different well-paying jobs in there, and if you're interested in the details, you should look into the salary report of the MBA schools, because there you find all the names of the companies which hired graduates from these business schools. So this will give you a good insight into the other category if you're interested. And don't let yourself be scared off by the mean average salary of 130,000, because you will find pearls in the other segment as well. Maybe even paying more than the consulting firms and having less stress. But it's more individual, and you need to work on it to find out which kind of jobs these could be and if they fit your profile. Not everyone listening to this video will make it into a business school and do an MBA and qualify for the 175,000 US dollar jobs. So what can you learn from this video? It's important to understand that in these industries, they will also need accountants. They will need persons who do graphics. They will need researchers. They will need IT guys. And believe me, they will pay you way above average. So get your CV to these companies if you want to work for them. Because I think you will have a better living, because they can pay more. If you're a good IT guy, if you're a good accountant, if you're good at something what they need, it may be well worthwhile to apply to these companies for a job, which is maybe not the best paid in the company, but it's probably still a pretty good paid job compared to other jobs, which have less prestigious clients or less money being involved. If you have any ideas for well-paying industries, let the community know down below in the comments, because everyone will value nice industries to work in, where you have supply-demand imbalances or where you handle big amounts of money, big ticket items, because these are jobs where you get paid well. I want to recommend 2 videos to you. The first video is about why rich parents send their children to business school, and the second video is about how you break into consulting and earn 100,000 US dollars straight out of college. Subscribe to my channel and like my video. Thanks for watching.